Let's get into this one real quick, man. So Arc Raiders, I remember seeing videos of this like months ago. I didn't know what the hell it was gonna be about, but I remember it looking good. I'm even more interested in this game now because I noticed that this is made by like I don't know if it's the same people or the same like developers or I don't know exactly, but I know it has some kind of connection to the finals. The finals I played that. It's that arena shooter that was made in Unreal Engine 5. And I mean, the finals was cool. It was a cool little game. Now I didn't stick to it. I played it for maybe like a couple weeks because my main game that I like to play is Apex Legends as far as like competitive shooters. But I should definitely try to hop back in the finals sometime, see what improvements they may have made. But apparently this is made by like the same people who was involved with the finals, and the finals was a fire looking game, like visually amazing. So let's hop into it.
All right, so I got some pretty cool stuff for you today. Last weekend, Embark Studios ran an early test for their upcoming game, Arc Raiders. Well, I got to spend some time playing it over the course of a couple of days, and now, as of today, the verbal NDA on this test has been lifted, so I can share with you information about the game and talk about my experience. However, unfortunately, no gameplay recording was allowed during the test. To be honest, I'm not exactly sure why this was the case, because the game ran well, it seemed quite polished, and I don't think we saw a single bug in the whole test. But regardless, the good news is we still can talk about the game, and I do have a couple of matches worth of new gameplay B-roll, so we're going to run that while we're talking about things here. Okay, so what is Arc Raiders? Well, when it was first revealed back in 2021, this was a looter shooter, but that has since changed, and it is now a PvEVP extraction game. Now, fortunately for me, I like both of these genres, but if you were hoping for a looter shooter similar to The Division, Warframe, or Destiny, well, that is just no longer what they're making. And as an aside, I will add that I am a little bit disappointed with this shift in direction. For one, because I enjoy looter shooters, so I would have liked to see a new one of those, but two, because from what I've played so far, this game actually seems pretty good, and the PvE side of things in particular seems quite fleshed out with a bunch of varied, interesting enemy types and a cool world that I think it would have very well made, or could have made at least, a great new installment into the looter shooter genre. But alas, that alternative reality doesn't exist on this timeline, and what we are getting is now an extraction game. Like I said, I enjoy these as well. I just would have also enjoyed seeing the looter shooter version of what Arc Raiders was supposed to be. Now, with that out of the way, though, let me just say, it seems like a pretty darn good extraction game from what I've played.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm like not like fiending, but I'm like very interested in getting into an extraction shooter. I've never played an extraction shooter. It would be fire if they make one that I'm interested in. I like the way this visually looks, so I'll be down. That'd be fire. What if Apex was to get like an extraction shooter, like limited time mode or something like that? For all my Apex Legends players, imagine an extraction shooter with Apex. What would that even look like? But then again, it's kind of hard for me to imagine because I've never played an extraction shooter. But I am interested in the concept of going in, having to find some gear or whatever materials, and to try to make it back out alive. You know what I mean? Before getting like interrupted by somebody else who's trying to take your stuff. You gotta fight your way out. Maybe you have to be stealthy. You know what I mean? I like the idea of that.
Over this weekend, I was quite impressed with the preview. Just about everything about it, from the overall gameplay and the design to the visuals, the animations, and even the game's performance, everything had a high degree of quality and polish across the board. I mean, I really I had a blast playing this game over the past couple of days during this test, and this has convinced me that I will certainly be playing it once again whenever the next one rolls around or come the official release. From my time with it so far, Arc Raiders is looking pretty darn good. So let's talk a bit about the game. The basic structure and gameplay loop you'll probably be familiar with if you've ever played any extraction game in the past. You will drop in with a starter set of weapons and consumables. You'll scavenge looking around the environment, searching for loot, resources, and weapons and gear. You'll fight enemies, both PvE with various types of robot drones in this game, as well as, of course, other players because it is PvEVP, and as of now, those other players will come in group sizes of up to 3. audio plays a major role. Every single action, movement, opening containers, attacks, everything has a distinct sound associated with it. And as such, the more you play, the more you learn what everything means, and this is going to help aid you in either attacking, hiding, or running from other players. If you survive and manage to extract without dying, you will then keep everything that you collected in the process. And then post-game, you unload all of your winnings into this stash, then you pick what you want to bring with you into the next round, and then you queue up to go again, rinse and repeat. That is the general gist of it. That's very similar to a lot of extraction games. Now let's talk some of the things that are really specific to Arc Raiders. For one, the game setting and the general vibe of it is all heavily inspired by popular science fiction from the 1970s. You can see this most clearly with the character designs, the outfits, and even the color palette.
I'm not gonna lie, the lighting in this game looks really, really good. Like the lighting, no joke, the lighting looks really good, bro.
Screams 70s. Gotta say, I like it. A little bit of a different setting than what I'm used to playing in. I think they've done a pretty good job here. The PvE enemies in this game are also rather unique. They're called the Ark, and this consists of a large variety of different robots and drones. There are tiny spiders that will jump up and cling to your face. There are small flamethrower balls that'll roll up to you, open up, and then blast you with fire. There are larger spheres that will spin up and charge at you at high speed, leaving a trail of flames in their wakes and then running into you. There are much bigger spiders that have like a bunch of lunging attacks and just are menacing on their own. And then there's numerous flying drones with several types, each having
what was that on his gun? It looked like he had like a silencer, but like,
their own function.
But like it was like a man. Okay, look at that silencer. It's like a, I don't know, for some reason it looked like it was like a makeshift silencer, like you made it yourself out of a can.
On their own. And then there's numerous flying drones with several types, each having their own function. You'll see ones with assault rifles that shoot tasers that will stun you and lock you in place. There are ones that have rocket launchers attached to them. And then there's even alarm drones that will scan the ground in a large vicinity, and if you are spotted, they send out a beacon which then summons reinforcements to your location. If you don't get out of there, you're going to be under a lot of fire very quickly. Now, by themselves, these enemies all pose a threat. Like even those tiny spiders that cling to your face can be a huge problem if another drone is accompanying them, because that clinging to your face is basically a hard crowd control until you get them off, making any other enemies around you having an easier time of killing you. But then also, while you're fighting these PvE threats, you're going to be creating a ton of noise, both from the gunfire from yourself, but then also the drone that's attacking you back. But then on top of that, the drones make all sorts of loud beeps and boops that will alert any nearby players to the fact that you are engaged in combat, because by themselves the drones aren't attacking anything unless there's another player that they spotted and are going after. So if you hear drones attacking and gunfire, that means players are in that area as well, and that draws people to that location. In fact, in nearly every case, if we were fighting these PvE enemies for more than like 20 or 30 seconds, other players would inevitably roll in to join.
Third party.
Join the drones, that is, in attacking us. So typically we would want to either avoid or dispatch of the PvE as soon as possible and then leave the area before anyone else shows up. Or you could make a bunch of noise and then wait until other people show up and try to catch them by surprise. All sorts of play and counterplay here. But even just engaging with the PvE threats alone is interesting. The PvP side of it notwithstanding. Like beyond them each having their own function and weaponry, they all also respond and engage differently. As I said earlier, there's enough depth here that it really makes me wonder what could have been had they continued forward with that originally planned looter shooter version of the game. I think probably what's most impressive are like all the movements and physics of this stuff, like the tiny spiders skittering along, the way the fire sphere drone spins up and accelerates towards you, the flying drones tilting as they speed forward in a direction and then swaying, rocking back and forth when they adjust angle to quickly stop themselves. Equally as impressive are the animations when attacking these things. They all appear to impact in a very realistic manner. Like you can shoot one of the fans off of a flying drone and they will spin out accordingly, even carrying momentum with them if they were quickly flying in a direction. Then they'll sort of move in all sorts of angles and spinning around in circles. It's just really, really impressive. Same goes with like shooting the legs off of one of the large larger spider drones. They'll stagger and stumble in whatever direction they were moving as well. And across the board, we saw many similar contextual reactions and animations in the game. The whole thing coming together to create like a very realistic appearing setting. Let's talk about the map and the area that you're going to be exploring, right? So beyond the training tutorial, there are 3 maps available in the game currently, each of them completely unique, handcrafted locations with distinct environments and points of interest. First, there is the dam. This is a swampy region with lakes, rivers, and of course, there's a huge dam located right in the middle of the map. And then beyond the dam and all of its associated attachments, there are many supporting buildings, and there's even these research domes scattered about mainly in the swamp area. The second map is the spaceport, made up of rolling hills and plains. There's a space shuttle launching tower in the middle, and then all sorts of large manufacturing and maintenance buildings all around the map. And then there is the buried city. This is a city in the desert, partially buried by sand. It's like a mini city slash suburban area. There's train stations, a town hall, there's an entire residential district, a library, and a hospital. And all of the maps are fairly large. I think the smallest one was the buried city, but even that seemed decently sized. And again, each one of these maps, beyond like in their own areas, they come with their own unique.
I wonder what's like the lore. Like, what's the lore? Because the way it looks like the damn like The Last of Us, as far as like society has been abandoned. You know, you have these abandoned buildings, these offices. This is definitely an office building right here. You have the desk and paperwork and stuff. Why it looks like the places was abandoned? Like, what's the point? Like, why are we going out here? Why are we searching for stuff to bring back to where? Like, what's going on out here? How did things get the way it got? Like, I wonder what's the story behind that. That'll help with the immersion of doing what you're doing every day.
Points of interest. Some of these buildings are just absolutely massive. Just in general, this game makes great use of and has a lot of vertical space. Now, every point of interest on your map can be highlighted, and it's going to tell you the basics of it. So it'll say what sort of building it is. It'll give you examples like raider, tech, mechanical, industrial, and so on. There's quite a long list of these categories, and each of them coincide with specific types of resources and items that you will find inside, and all those resources and items play into the game's crafting system. It's also going to tell you the current arc presence at any of the points of interest. This will either be low, medium, or high. These are color coded as well, and it basically translates to how many of the arc, the PvE enemies, are there in a location. The higher the presence, the more numerous and deadly that area is. And then also on the map are going to be several of the marked extraction points. So these come in 2 primary forms. They're static. They're always in the same locations on every single map. There are group extraction locations. This comes in the form of elevators and metro stations. And then there are solo extractions via these hatches that require a key for you to enter. The group extractions, you just have to walk up, you hit a button, and then it's gonna, after some countdown, open up and allow you to step inside, and then you can close it to begin the extraction. Obviously, as you assume, while this is all happening, the thing's making a bunch of noise, which will draw both the PvE enemies.
Okay, hold on. They got a ping system. Toggle voice, squad only, attack. This reminds me of Apex a little bit. It's like the little eyeball on the left is like to look over there, or I'm looking over there. I'm guessing this little wave right here is probably like, oh, I hear something over there. This might mean, who knows, maybe go over there, or I see something over there. This is attack. It says, because it says attack. This is probably like regroup, right? This one on the bottom is probably like regroup here. This is probably like I need help, I need aid, or you know what I mean? I don't know what this will be. Maybe there's supplies over here, or checking for supplies, maybe.
This is all happening. The thing's making a bunch of noise, which will draw both the PvE enemies as well as other players. And speaking of keys for the solo extraction thing, there's also in many of the points of interest these loot rooms that are locked and require key cards to enter. You'll find these elsewhere as you're just looting containers and exploring the open world. When you have a key card, it's going to tell you what room at what point of interest it goes to. You make your way there, you use the card, you open the room, and this is where you're going to find a lot of the highly valuable rare loot in the game. game. Also, a couple of other things that we noticed while we were playing. There were some events, although we've only seen one so far. It's the drop pod event. You're going to see a thing fall from the sky. You go to its location, open it up, and there's some resources inside. Lots of environmental stuff. It looks like the game has a day-night cycle as well as weather. So we notice like morning turning into evening and then full-blown night. And then we've noticed various weather effects. It can be lightly raining or even full-on thunderstorms.
They got grappling hooks. Okay. This lighting is good.
That we've noticed various weather
Chipping. I don't know who's chipping in. Chipping in? Okay.
effects. It can be
Got a grappling gun, bro. It could be Batman in this
lightly
game.
raining or even full-on thunderstorms where it's really dark and torrential rain with lightning going.
Like this right here looks crazy. Like this view. It looks almost like Star Wars in a sense. You know? It looks a little bit like Star Wars. Even like Star Wars vibes.
Off. And all of these things will not only affect the lighting and how it looks around you, but also things like visibility and also the audio that it creates, which impacts whether or not you can eat more easily or if it's more difficult to notice other players. Speaking of which, of course, there's PvP. Right now, it looks like it is fully trios. You can still queue in as a single or duo, but you're going to be up against trios. This is actually probably my main point of early feedback so far, is that I would like them to add different hoppers, and they may very well already be planning on doing that, but because this test was so limited, I think at its peak there was like 2,000 concurrent players when I looked on SteamDB. So I hope that they're just going to do this in the background. Maybe it wasn't in full effect here because it was a much smaller player base than what they're expecting at release. But yeah, anyway, PvP, you're going to be coming across other players all the time. As an extraction game, you're going to really want to prioritize listening to hear when other players are around, to hear when they're engaged in combat, but then also minimizing the amount of noise that you're making if you're trying to stay hidden. You can go in guns blazing if you're looking for fights nonstop. That is certainly going to be happening. So other players are going to be around the map looking for loot. I couldn't get a sense at how many players there were, but pretty much every single match we would get in at least 2 or 3 gunfights with other groups of players. So it seems like they filled up the maps enough that you are regularly getting in battles. If you come across them, you'll almost always fight. In fact, I never came across an instance where there were other players trying to be friendly. They come to you, they're going to shoot you. It seems like that's the case here. There is a down but not out mechanic in the game, so this does give you a chance to revive teammates if you get in like a medium or a long distance battle and they can get behind cover. Once they're downed, you can bring them back and have them rejoin the fight. If you get fully downed and you are eliminated, you drop everything. The only exception is you have a single slot safe pocket that you can put certain valuables in or whatever you want, really. But pretty much everything that you're carrying, your full equipped inventory, your weapons, your armor, as well as everything that you're carrying in your stash, all that will get dropped, and you'll lose it if you happen to die. So yeah, full-on extraction game. You want to pull stuff back. You want to survive and extract safely. Now, it is worth noting that there are quite a few extraction points on the map. Every single map will have several extraction points, both the group extractions as well as those solo hatch extractions. One thing that we noted is you can actually have very short matches. Like there are many times where we would drop in, we might get in one fight, loot a group, and be fully equipped with everything that they had. We would kill them. We would pick up everything that they collected, and we could be in and out of a match in under 10 minutes easily. I think some of our matches were under 5 minutes. We would drop in, hear people, go, fight, kill them, loot them, and then go straight to an extraction. Because there are several extractions, they're scattered all around the map, basically. It's like you drop in on the edge of the map, and then you go towards the center, and then all of the extraction points are sort of in a ring between the edges and the center, right on that outer area. But anyway, yeah, you could just get really quick matches in this game, which is something that it felt like it was a faster loop of being in and out than what I'm used to in extraction games. One thing that I do want to make note of here was the visuals and performance. This was just like jaw-dropping to me in all respects. The game looks phenomenal, like unbelievably good looking at times. There were many occasions where I found myself actually pausing in a PvP game. I would just stop for a second to just take in how good like the lighting and the environmental effects were. In particular, a lot of these there were areas with like the indoor environments where the light would be peeking through these tinted windows, and it was just like so good looking. It was some of the most realistic looking graphics I have seen. Really, really.
Nah, he's not lying, bro. It looks really, really good.
really impressed here. What's even more though is that the whole thing ran like flawlessly. It was like perfectly smooth frame rates the entire time that I played, and that goes a long way for me. It almost doesn't matter to me how good a game looks. If it runs like garbage, I'm not really gonna want to play it. If there's inconsistent frame rates, if they're jumping all over the place, but to have like a great looking game and have it also run so smoothly, and especially in the fact that this is like a I don't know how many more months pre-release. This game's not scheduled until 2025 at some point. So yeah, it ran very well on top of looking really good. That's awesome. Love to see it. Bunch of progression systems. In between rounds, you have access to going through your inventory. Then there's also vendors, crafting, and various forms of account progression. So there's a bunch of PvE traders, and they're going to sell you all of the basic.
Yo, when you're shooting, like look at the lighting. Like this guy right here, Enzate. This Enzate guy, when you see him shooting, just seeing the flash, the muzzle flash, flashing, and it's like the reflection off the floor right here.
Access to going through your inventory.
All right, you see that?
Progression systems. In between rounds, you have access to go.
It's something small, but it's just, I don't know, it's just, I love seeing stuff like that. I just love seeing that kind of stuff. That kind of stuff just makes me feel like there's gonna be some detail, you know?
Going through your inventory. Then there's also vendors, crafting, and various forms of account progression. So there's a bunch of PvE traders, and they're going to sell you all of the basic stuff that you need. Basic levels of ammo, weapons, and attachments. There's a grenade shop.
Speranza, Piazza, Toledo Western Sector. Okay, well, hold up.
All of the basic stuff that you need. Basic levels of ammo, weapons, and attachments. There's a grenade shop, a medical bay, and security station, which sells some just like basic materials, as well as those solo Raider hatch escape keys if you're playing solo. There's a whole questing system, and I'm guessing they're taking a lot of what's here from what was in that looter shooter PvE version of the game, because a bunch of these quests are like voice acted and stuff, and they given some narrative background telling you to go see someone like in the security bay. I'm like, what security bay? This is just a menu, and I'm talking to like menu embedded NPCs here. But regardless, yeah, there's a whole questing system. You'll pick up a quest, and this will be some combination of the NPC will want you to bring them materials. They'll want you to complete some sort of objectives while you're in one of the matches. Usually it's like go to this specific point of interest and interact with some specific object.
Wait, what was that? Like, it looked like he was in a rocket ship for a second when he went inside this thing.
Yeah, there's a whole...
Like, is this like the animation for when you leave, I guess, your base or your... Like, is that like an underground city over here? Like, where was it? The Esperanza, whatever? Is this like an underground city? This can't be underground, right? This ain't underground, right? How would they build an underground city? Right? I don't know. But this right here...
Yeah, there's a whole questing system. You'll pick up a quest, and this will be some...
Like, what is this? It looks like you about to fly off into space.
Combination of the NPC will want you to bring them materials. They'll want you to complete some sort of objective.
But he's like opening like some door, like a vault. Is it like an underground city you live in? Like some kind of underground vault? Like some Fallout type of stuff? It's like a Fallout area that they stay in, and then they only leave to get supplies, and when they leave to get supplies, that's the actual game play environment.
Objectives while you're in one of the matches. Usually it's like go to this specific point of interest and interact with some specific object there, and then you turn it back in. Or they'll want you to like ping PvE enemies or do other things within a match, participate in an event, which primarily right now looks to be just those crash drones. And then all of this rewards you some experience, currency, and items. Currency and items are used to purchase things from the traders, to repair your gear, but then also resources used for crafting. The game has a full-blown crafting system. anything that you can find or purchase from NPC vendors, you can also craft an assortment of ranged weaponry, all of the basic types, assault rifles, pistols, shotguns, LMGs, everything that you assume from a third-person shooter is pretty much here. Then there's also armor. You've got this basic protection, which comes in different tiers with light, medium, and heavy. There's associated penalties and benefits with each of those. All of this stuff has rarities as well. You can either find or upgrade the rarity of these items. There's also mods, attachments, ammunition, grenades, utility items with consumables and throwables. Yeah, again, pretty much everything you expect from this sort of like looter PvE extraction game, looter shooter game. Yeah. Progression comes in the form of account-wide skill trees. These are broken up into 3 categories: conditioning, mobility, and survival. Each of these are just linear progression. You move from one end all the way to the other, getting various benefits to offensive and defensive things, survivability, mobility, stealth, things like that. And something that I really appreciated that they have in here is the way that they handle naked runs. So one thing that you'll constantly run up against in extraction games is having a bad streak where you just keep on dying and you keep losing your stuff over and over and over again. And so oftentimes players will do these self-enforced naked runs where they go in with pretty much nothing but the basic necessities, like a low-level weapon and some low-level consumables. Well, Arc Raiders has just a built-in method of automatically doing this. It's called trader runs. What it's going to do is it'll dump anything that's in your equipped item stash that you would normally go into a match with, and it's just going to load you in with...
That must be the baby oil section. That shit is empty. Like 1 bottle of baby oil is left. That's it.
Would normally go into a match with, and it's just going to load you in with one basic weapon and a few basic consumables and then ammo to go with your basic weapon. What I like here is that they make it super streamlined and easy. There's nothing for you to do. You don't have to like dump your current setup. It does it automatically, or you don't have to go in and craft or buy from vendors basic levels of weapons, consumables, and ammo and then put them all in your stash. No, it just like gives you a random loadout. You're going to start with one weapon, healing items, and in most cases...
You know what I noticed? This person playing... Wait, is that him? What's it? The F note? He hasn't been hitting any of his shots. He hasn't been hitting not one shot. I seen him do a lot of shooting. I don't think I've seen him hit not one shot yet with that pistol. He not hitting any shots. He missing every shot I'm seeing so far. And then he's shooting from like 2 blocks away too.
Also some form of a grenade, and they're no risk runs. You can just keep on doing over and over and over again from what we saw. And I just like that they're taking out the fiddling with your inventory portion of it, which I've experienced in other extraction games. They've streamlined this, and I think there are other extraction games that have made a similar streamlined method along the lines of what they're doing here. But again, I just wanted to highlight it because sometimes I play games where I'll want to do these low risk runs, but it still requires a bunch of prep work of I got to buy the basic item, I got to buy the associated ammunition, and I got to make sure I've got my healing and whatever other consumables that I want. Now, I gotta say, one thing that gives me hope for Arc Raiders, beyond the fact that I've enjoyed what I've played thus far, is their developer, Embark Studios. Well, this isn't their first game. If you weren't aware, they just recently released another title, The Finals. It came out in December 2023. Now, that game had a great reception. It currently sits at mostly positive on Steam. It's got a rating of nearly 80% positive, and they still have a steady player base averaging about 20,000 peak concurrent daily players today, and that ain't too shabby. I mean, that puts them in the top 100 most played games on Steam each and every single day. Not bad, right? So the fact that I already feel like Arc Raiders is in a solid spot, even only playing it for about 2 days here, that it has me hopeful that by the time they launch this thing, it's even in better shape, because I already really like the base foundation that is here. And then other than that, I mean, not a lot else to say. I enjoyed my time with it. It seems like a well put together extraction game. It seems polished and just looks good. It plays good. Great animations, great immersion. I had a good time with it. That's about all I gotta say. I'm gonna want to play a lot more before I give a really thorough, in-depth review and critique of this, of course, because I've only played about 10 hours so far. As I've said, I like what I've seen thus far, and I'm pretty hopeful for this game's future, hoping it turns out good. Arc Raiders is supposed to be coming out at some point in 2025. I think it's supposed to be in the first half of the year, so we might be 6 to 8 months from its release as of this recording. We'll see. That's it for today's video. Thank you as always for watching. Hope you enjoyed. I'll see you in the next one, and I'll be sure to follow up on Arc Raiders because I will definitely be playing it more, and I'll give it a more...
All right. I'm not gonna lie, I like the way the game looks, man. It looks really, really good. I cannot even front. Like visually, like the animations, the physics that he was talking about, um, the lighting, bro. The lighting is really what's getting me. I'm like looking at the lighting. I'm like, damn, this lighting looks so good, man. And if it looks good on YouTube, you know it's gonna look even better when you're actually playing it, because you know you got to go through the YouTube as far as like bit rate and all that extra stuff, and you know normally sometimes you might lose some quality on its way to uploading. But yeah, I'm interested. I am interested in that for sure. I hope it's good. I would love to get into uh, what do you call it? An extraction shooter. I remember seeing people play Escape from Tarkov like about a year or two ago, I think. And I remember looking at that and thinking like, yeah, this is cool, but this seems a little more intense than what I might be interested in jumping in, especially at that point, because I think Escape from Tarkov been out for years. So if I come in brand new and you got to learn all this, I heard Escape from Tarkov is like, it's like, it's like a game for like people who've been in the military. You know what I mean? Because it's like really like realistic. So I'm just thinking like, I don't know if I want to hop into something as intense like that. You know, no, like in the middle, like after people already been playing it for so long. Um, but Arc Raiders, who knows? That might be the one for me. So we'll see. Looks good. Hope it's good.